You know, when you're looking at a map and kind of get that entrepreneurial itch.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the Americas the other day, and Mexico just kept jumping out at me.
Right.
The economy there is
it's booming.
It's exploding, and it's right there.
Yeah.
Perfectly situated.
The Americas.
So anyone looking to expand, especially internationally,
makes a lot of
South
sense.
Africa has got to be on their radar. But going global, I mean,
it's complicated.
There's a lot to figure, especially the labor laws and taxes.
Especially in a place like Mexico.
It can feel impossible to get a handle on that stuff remotely.
It really can. I mean, it's like you're putting together furniture.
Yeah.
But the instructions are in a different language.
Which is where this idea of an EO comes in.
Yeah, an employee of record.
Huge help for businesses expanding into Mexico.
Absolutely essential for handling all those tricky HR details.
Yeah, like having a local expert, someone who's fluent in Mexican employment law.
Right.
So that's what we're going to deep dive into today.
We're going to break down how using an EO at Mexico can really make the whole expansion process a lot smoother.
Like a lot less stressful.
Way less stressful.
And way less risky.
Right.
So practically speaking, how does an EO actually work in Mexico? Like if I'm listening to this thinking, all right, this EO thing sounds interesting. What are the actual steps?
Okay.
Say I decide to go with INS Global.
So if you go with a company like INS Global, the very first step is they want to understand your goals.
Gotcha.
Really get a sense of what you're trying to achieve in the Mexican market.
Okay.
Like, what are your specific objectives?
So they actually take the time to understand my business.
It's a very in-depth conversation.
Interesting.
What kind of team do you need?
Okay.
What roles are you looking to fill?
Okay, specific roles. So not just like...
Not just bodies.
Yeah.
Skills, right?
Skills, yeah.
And then what's your timeline?
Okay.
How quickly are you looking to get up and running?
Got it.
Because it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, right?
So it's a real partnership.
It is. It's about understanding your unique needs.
Not just a service.
Not just the transaction.
So they get my vision for Mexico.
They really do. And once they have a good grasp of that, the next phase is all about getting your team set up.
Okay.
So whether you're hiring new people in Mexico or relocating some of your existing team, the EOR takes care of all the legal and administrative hurdles,
like the
visas, work permits,
payroll,
contracts,
making sure everything
all compliant with Mexican law.
Okay. So they really handle all the details.
They really do. And here's the big one, the part people often missed.
Yeah.
The EOR actually becomes the legal employer of your team in Mexico.
Oh, I see.
Which is huge.
So you're saying you don't
need to set up your own entity right away.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which can save you a ton of time and money.
A ton.
Yeah.
So wait, they're the employer on paper.
They are.
But you
still have control of your team.
I get to call the shots on like the day-to-day, the strategy.
The day-to-day operations, the overall business strategy, that's all you.
Okay, got it.
The EOR is focused on the HR stuff.
All the back-end stuff.
The essential tasks, but ones that require a real deep knowledge of local regulations.
Okay.
And it doesn't stop there.
Right. It's not just set up.
Exactly. The third step is the ongoing HR management.
Ongoing. So keeping everything
compliant, running payroll accurately and on time.
Okay.
Managing benefits.
Right.
And making sure all the health insurance and Social Security obligations are met.
Through, what is it?
Through the IMSS.
IMSS, right.
The Mexican Social Security Institute.
Got it.
So they're basically your HR team in Mexico.
Handling all those vital but complicated things.
Right.
So I can focus on actually growing the business.
That's the idea.
Makes sense. So what are the real benefits here?
Okay, yeah, let's talk benefits. What do you see as some of the big wins for businesses using an EOR in Mexico?
Well, first thing that jumps out is the speed.
Speed, yeah.
Like you were saying, you don't need to set up your own entity right away.
Right.
That saves a ton of time.
It really does. Instead of months of bureaucracy, you can get your team up and running way faster.
And time is
money.
Yeah.
We've seen businesses get operational in Mexico in like 4 to 6 weeks using an EOR.
Wow.
Compared to the 6 to 12 months it usually takes to incorporate.
Huge difference.
It is. And that speed gives you a real edge. Right?
Yeah, you can focus on
building relationships,
connections,
getting your products and services out there.
Instead of being bogged down in paperwork.
Exactly.
And then there's the whole compliance piece.
Compliance, yeah. Big one.
Mexican labor laws
they're complex.
And specific.
Very specific.
Things like employment contracts, taxes, benefits.
All that stuff.
And EO knows all that inside and out.
That's what they do.
So you know you're following all the rules.
You're covered.
Which means less risk of
legal problems.
Yeah.
And one thing to keep in mind, employees in Mexico have a lot of protection.
Oh, really?
Yeah, more so than in other North American markets.
Interesting.
So you got to be really careful with things like termination procedures.
I see.
And EO can help you navigate all that.
That peace of mind is huge.
It is.
Because who wants legal headaches?
Exactly.
Nobody. And then there's the whole talent thing.
Talent, yeah.
That can be a real challenge when you're expanding to a new country.
It can.
But an EO often already has.
They have the network.
Networks, yeah.
They understand the local talent market.
So they can.
They handle the recruitment, the interviews, all the paperwork.
Oh, so they can help me find the right people.
Absolutely.
For both local and international hires?
Right.
Wow. That's a lot less work for me.
It is.
Which also probably means...
Cost savings.
Cost savings, yeah, because I'm not setting up a whole new entity with all those overhead costs.
Think about it. Legal fees, bank accounts, payroll systems, HR staff.
Right.
An EOR can be way more cost effective.
Especially when you're just starting out.
Especially at the beginning, yeah.
Or if you have a smaller team.
Right.
But even for bigger companies, an EOR can handle things like...
integrating Mexico into your existing global payroll system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you're not starting from scratch.
It's more efficient.
Way more.
And I'm guessing it gives you a lot more flexibility, too.
Flexibility, yeah.
You need to, scale up or down.
Absolutely.
Depending on how things are going.
You can adapt to the market.
It's much easier than if you're tied to a
permanent structure.
Yeah.
You're more nimble, more responsive.
So EOR sounds like a really strong option.
It is for a lot of businesses.
But how does it actually compare to...
To incorporation.
Yeah, like setting up my own company in Mexico.
Right. That's the key question.
What are the trade-offs I should be thinking about?
Okay, well, let's start with speed.
Yeah, speed is important.
Huge difference.
With an EOR.
You could be up and running in weeks.
Weeks, yeah.
Sometimes even faster.
Wow.
Traditional incorporation.
Yeah.
Months.
Okay.
Legal filings, bank accounts, government agencies. It takes time.
So if I need to move quickly?
EO is the way to go.
EOR, yeah. And what about compliance?
Compliance is crucial, right?
Yeah, we talked about EORs helping with that. But if I incorporate...
You're still responsible.
I'm still ultimately responsible.
Absolutely.
For following all the laws.
Right.
Okay.
But here's the difference.
Yeah.
EORs are experts in this stuff.
Oh, I see.
It's their bread and butter.
Right.
They're on top of all the changes, all the regulations,
so
checking into their knowledge.
Leveraging their expertise.
Exactly.
Okay. And cost-wise.
Cost is a big factor, right?
We said EORs can be more cost-effective.
Especially for smaller companies.
Especially at the start.
Or for short-term projects.
Right, but for larger companies.
Even for larger companies, EORs can be very efficient.
How so?
Think about integrating Mexico into your global systems.
Oh, right.
Payroll, HR, and EOR can handle all that smoothly.
So it can actually...
It can save you a lot of headaches.
Yeah.
And money.
And if a larger company wants to fully incorporate later on...
They can.
They can still use an EOR at the beginning?
Absolutely.
To kind of...
Test the waters.
Get
things set up.
Get established.
Without a huge upfront investment.
Okay. That's a good strategy. Now, what about control?
Control, yeah, that's a big one.
I feel like some businesses might be hesitant.
Yeah, they might worry about losing control.
If they're not the direct employer.
Right.
Is that a valid concern?
It's understandable.
Okay.
With full incorporation, you do have complete control.
Right.
Over everything.
But with an EO.
With a good EO, you still have a lot of control over your workforce.
I see.
You're still managing their day-to-day work.
Okay.
Their performance, your overall strategy.
So I'm still the boss.
You are.
Okay.
The EOR is handling the administrative stuff.
The background stuff?
The legal stuff.
Okay, so I get the control I need.
You do.
Without all the...
headaches.
Yeah.
Of direct employment in a foreign country.
So if I decide to go with an EO, what should I be looking for?
What are the key factors in choosing an EO?
Yeah, how do I pick the right one?
Okay, first thing, a track record.
Track record, okay.
Credibility. How long have they been doing this?
Right.
Do they have a good reputation?
Like INS Global, for example?
Exactly. INS Global has a strong track record.
Yeah, they've been around for a while.
They have. Look for client testimonials, case studies, any industry awards.
Okay, so proof that they know what they're doing.
Right. You want experience.
Experience, yeah. And what else?
What services do they offer?
Okay, services.
Do they just do payroll, or can they help with visas and work permits?
Got it.
Do they understand Mexican tax and labor law?
So basically, can they
meet your needs?
Yeah.
All of them.
And if my needs change...
Can they adapt?
Can they grow with my business?
That's scalability.
Scalability, okay.
Important.
Very important.
And communication.
Communication is key.
Especially when you're dealing with all this...
international stuff.
International, legal stuff.
Right. You want an EOR that's clear, transparent, and consistent.
So I'm always in the loop.
Exactly.
And of course, cost.
Cost is always a factor.
How do I make sure I'm getting...
Good value. Good value, yeah.
Look at their pricing. Is it transparent?
Okay.
Is it competitive? Are there any hidden fees?
Got it.
Maybe talk to some third-party advisors.
Okay.
Compare different providers.
All right, so we've talked about how an EOR works and why it can be such a good option for businesses expanding into Mexico.
Right.
But to really understand all this, we need to talk about
Mexican labor law.
Yeah, the actual laws.
It's important to understand the context.
Because that's what the EOR is helping me navigate.
That's exactly right. They're the experts.
So let's start with employment contracts.
Okay, employment contracts. In Mexico, these are legally required.
They have to be.
Written contracts. Mandated by the federal labor law, the LFT. And there are different types of contracts.
Oh, interesting.
The most common is the indefinite term contract.
Infinite term.
Which gives employees a lot of job security.
Okay.
But you also have contracts for specific projects and fixed term contracts.
Right, depending on the
type of work.
Type of work.
But every contract has to include certain details.
Like what?
Job duties, salary, working hours, termination conditions.
Makes sense.
And the LFT sets minimum standards.
Oh, okay.
Including the minimum wage.
Which is?
It was around MXN 207 per day in 2023.
MXN 207.
But that can change.
Right, right. So it's not just a casual agreement.
It's a formal legal document.
A written contract.
Exactly.
What about probationary periods?
Yeah, probationary periods are allowed.
Okay.
Usually up to 30 days.
30 days.
But for managers or specialized roles, it could be up to 180 days.
180, wow.
During this time, either the employer or the employee can end the relationship.
I see.
Without having to pay severance.
Oh, interesting.
But there has to be a good reason.
Like it's not a good fit.
Right, it can't be discriminatory.
Okay, so it's a chance for both sides.
To see if it's going to work out.
To assess the fit.
Exactly.
But even during this probationary period,
employees still have all their rights.
Oh, okay.
They get their salary, their Social Security, their paid leave.
They're protected.
They are.
What about working hours?
The working hours. The standard work week in Mexico is 48 hours.
48?
Usually over 6 days.
Okay.
But more and more companies are moving to a 5-day work week.
Right, right.
And overtime is regulated very specifically.
How so?
For the first 9 hours of overtime, you have to pay double the regular wage.
Double.
And anything over that, triple.
Yeah, triple, wow.
Yeah. And there are limits on how much overtime someone can work.
Okay, what are those limits?
Maximum 3 hours a day, no more than 3 times a week.
3 hours a day, 3 times a week.
Right. But, and this is important in reality, especially in the informal sector, some people might work more without getting paid properly.
I see, I see. What about paid leave?
Paid leaves, okay. In Mexico, employees have a right to paid vacation.
After how long?
After 1 year of service.
1 year.
They start with 6 days.
6 days.
And it goes up by 2 days every year.
Okay.
Up to 12 days after 4 years.
I gotcha.
And then it increases a bit slower.
I see.
Maternity leave is 12 weeks, fully paid.
12 weeks, wow.
Usually 6 weeks before the due date and 6 weeks after.
Okay.
But the mom can transfer up to 4 weeks.
Oh, interesting.
From before to after if she wants.
Flexible.
And sick leave is usually handled through the IMSS.
The IMSS again. So what does that mean?
It usually covers about 60% of the salary.
Okay.
Starting after the 3rd day of being sick.
Gotcha. So there's a good system for paid leave in Mexico.
There is.
What about social insurance?
Social insurance is mandatory in Mexico.
Mandatory.
It's managed by the IMSS.
INS, right.
And it covers things like healthcare, pensions, disability, work-related injuries.
Oh, wow. So it's pretty comprehensive.
It is.
And who pays for it?
Both the employer and the employee contribute.
Okay.
The employer usually pays around 15%.
15%.
Of the employee's salary.
Okay.
And the employee pays a smaller percentage.
Gotcha. So it's a shared responsibility.
It is. It's a key part of the social safety net in Mexico.
Makes sense. And finally, severance pay.
Severance pay, yeah.
What are the rules around that?
So if an employee's dismissed without, just because they have a right to severance.
Okay.
And pretty significant.
How significant?
They get 3 months salary.
3 months.
Plus 20 days salary for each year they worked.
Wow.
Plus a portion of any other benefits they've earned.
Like vacation pay.
Exactly. And on top of that, there's a seniority premium.
Seniority premium. Okay.
Which is another 12 days salary for each year of service.
Okay.
But that's usually capped.
I see. So severance pay is a serious thing in Mexico.
It is. It's a big protection for employees.
It gives them some financial security if they lose their job unfairly.
Right.
So as you can see, Mexican labor law is pretty complex.
It is. There are a lot of details.
And a lot of nuances.
And it's constantly changing. So having an EOR, who knows all this stuff?
Is a huge help.
It really is. They're your local expert.
You make sure you're following all the rules.
And they protect you from liability.
So if anyone's thinking about expanding to Mexico. And they want to do it the right way.
The smart way.
The smart way, yeah. Talk to INS Global.
Absolutely.
Tell them about your plans.
Yeah.
And they'll help you figure out
if an EOR is right for you.
If an EOR is the best solution.
They will.
Because think about it. The time and resources you could save and the risks you could avoid.
Big ones.
Having that expert support in Mexico.
Right from the start.
From day one, yeah. Could be a real game changer.
It could.
It could give you a serious advantage.
Across the Americas.
Across the whole region.
Think about it.
Yeah, something to think about.
It is.